Hello, welcome to Learn English with Technology podcast series. Today we're diving into something a little different.
Okay.
Using Siri
Uh-huh.
to boost your English skills, especially at night,
Interesting.
like late at night,
Oh.
when everyone else is asleep. We're unlocking the secrets
Yeah.
of the English Master podcast episode, Night Learning with Siri, and explore how you can use those late night hours to improve your English. Have you ever thought about chatting with Siri when everyone else is snoozing to improve your English?
Oh, you can talk to Siri any time of day, right?
Yeah, but that's what's so cool about this. This idea is all about, like, the science behind it.
Oh, okay.
Our brains don't just shut down when we go to sleep.
No, of course not.
Research from Sleep Lab suggests
Yeah.
that our minds kind of shift gears in the evening and they become more open to new information and creative thinking.
Oh, so like we're primed for learning at night.
Exactly.
I like that.
And Siri's always that, right?
Yeah.
Like 24/7, ready to chat, ready to practice.
That's
no need to find a language partner. Or like schedule a tutor who's also up late.
That's a really good point.
Yeah. So
no.
it's like you have this built-in, judgment-free language partner.
All right, in our pocket.
Right.
That's pretty cool.
But we need to set ourselves up for success, right?
Yeah.
Even with a patient partner like Siri, the episode talks about creating a midnight mindset zone.
A what?
A midnight mindset zone.
Okay.
It's basically your learning environment.
Yeah.
But set up for late night focus.
So like a special place we create just for learning English at night.
Exactly.
Okay, so
What do you think are some of the key elements of creating this space?
well, the podcast host talks about this thing called the 30-70 rule. So 30% of the space should be energizing elements, and then 70% is comfort.
So it's like finding that balance, right?
Yeah.
Between being alert and relaxed.
Yeah. Finding that sweet spot.
What does that look like in practice, though?
Like what?
Like, what's in this space?
Oh, well, definitely no harsh overhead lights. It should be a softer light,
What?
warmer, and the episode actually calls it a learning halo.
A learning halo.
Yeah, the light, ideally, it's like at eye level or a little above, and you also want to keep the room like a comfortable temperature,
What's comfortable?
around 68, 72 degrees Fahrenheit.
Okay.
I mean, that's what they recommend.
And what about supplies?
Oh, yeah, of course.
What do we need?
Your phone, a notebook, maybe some water or tea.
So keep everything within reach.
Yeah, they call it your command center.
Oh, I like that. A command center.
So you minimize distractions and you're comfortable. So you can just focus.
Makes sense.
And don't forget posture.
Posture.
Yeah, it matters.
I would never have thought about that.
Well, they talk about finding a power position.
What's that?
It's like between sitting up straight and lying down.
So like in between the two.
Yeah, so you can be comfortable, but you're also engaged.
So it's all about sending those signals to our brain.
Right.
Like, okay, it's time to learn now.
Exactly.
I love that.
Me too.
Now that we've set up our little learning nest, let's talk about the learning itself. This episode introduces this idea called the nighttime language dance.
The nighttime language dance.
Yeah. It's all about finding the right rhythm for late night learning.
Oh, okay, like finding what works for you.
Exactly. They highlight this concept of the golden hour.
What's that?
It's a specific time when your brain is like primed for language learning, but it's different for everyone.
So like,
Some people might find their golden hour is 10 p.m.
okay,
and others might be more alert at 2 a.m. It's all about finding what works best for you.
that makes sense.
And once you find your golden hour, how do we make the most of it?
Good question.
They recommend a sunset reset.
A sunset reset.
Yeah. Like a 5-minute routine to get your brain ready for learning, to kind of switch gears.
From like the daytime stuff.
Exactly.
Okay.
What do you think this reset could look like?
I don't know.
Like, what would you do?
Maybe some meditation or some light stretching or even just close my eyes and visualize myself practicing.
Oh, I like that visualization.
Yeah.
That's a good one. So we had this little ritual. We're in our golden hour. And now it's time to actually talk to Siri. But we're not just asking about the weather or setting alarms.
Right.
We're taking it to the next level.
What do you mean?
They call it the progressive dialogue technique.
The progressive dialogue technique.
Yeah. So instead of, hey, Siri, what's the weather like? We might say, hey, Siri, what are your thoughts on climate change?
Oh, wow. Much deeper.
Exactly.
That's interesting.
About pushing our boundaries.
Yeah.
And engaging in more complex conversation.
Yeah, I see.
So we're using those late night hours for real language growth.
Yeah.
I'm feeling more confident already.
Just thinking about it.
Yeah, just thinking about it.
That's pretty cool.
But before we get too carried away, with all these possibilities, let's talk about how to structure our practice. They talk about the night owl energy curve.
The night owl energy curve. What is that?
It's basically understanding how our energy levels fluctuate.
Oh, at night.
Throughout the evening.
Okay.
So even late at night. There are times when we're more focused and times when we need something a little more low-key.
Yeah, that's true.
So how do we put this into practice? They break down those late night hours into 3 learning zones.
3 learning zones.
Yeah, each with its own optimal learning activity.
I can't wait to hear about these.
We'll definitely dive into those in more detail. I'm also curious about this crescendo method.
The crescendo method.
Yeah, they mentioned it as a way to structure a practice session.
Okay.
It sounds like composing music. You start softly and then build to this powerful crescendo.
Wow, I like that.
It's a natural way to build intensity and prevent burnout.
I need to try that.
But we have plenty of time to unpack those techniques in our next segment. All right, so we have our little nest. We're in our golden hour. We're ready to chat with Siri. But what about the content?
The content, like what we're actually talking about.
Exactly. We're going beyond the basics.
Okay.
Like, hey, Siri, what time is it?
Yeah.
We're going beyond that.
Okay.
We need to get creative and push our boundaries.
Yeah. So where do we begin?
Well, the episode talks about thinking of Siri as a storytelling partner.
A storytelling partner.
They call it the story spiral technique.
Okay.
We weave in this never-ending story with Siri.
Okay.
And each night, you add a new chapter.
I like that.
So we might start with, imagine you're planning a vacation, Siri. Where would you go and why? And then each night we build on that. We add details, challenges, plot twists, that kind of thing.
So much more interesting than just like, define this word.
Exactly. It's so much more engaging. We're using our imagination. We're practicing different tenses. We're even exploring complex ideas.
Yeah, I see.
They also talk about timeline hopping.
Timeline hopping.
Yeah, that's where we jump between past, present, and future events.
Oh, I see.
In these stories to practice different tenses. And then there's the emotional vocabulary ladder.
Emotional vocabulary ladder. Okay.
Yeah. It's about moving beyond
Yeah.
simple emotions,
Like,
happy or sad, and finding more nuanced ways to express our feelings. In English, it's like taking a creative writing class with Siri as our guide.
I love that.
We're not just learning grammar rules and vocabulary lists. We're actually using the language to express ourselves in meaningful ways.
That's so cool.
So let's pause here for a second and recap what we've learned.
Okay.
What are some of the key takeaways?
Well, first, it's fascinating how our brains are wired for learning, even at night.
That is pretty cool. And we need to create this comfortable and stimulating learning environment. We need to find our golden hour. And we need to approach this as a creative and engaging process. We're not just using Siri as a dictionary or a translator. We're seeing Siri as a language partner.
I like that.
Right. To explore the nuances of English, to build our confidence, and to have fun.
Ready for more.
Too. There's so much more to come. In our next segment, we're diving into those learning zones and exploring even more ways to make Siri our ultimate late-night language learning companion.
I can't wait. Welcome back.
All right. So we're diving deeper into these learning zones and discovering how to tailor our practice to our fluctuating energy levels.
Okay, sounds good.
You mentioned these 3 distinct learning zones. Can you walk me through them?
Sure.
Like, what do they look like, and how can we make the most of them?
Think of it like a journey with different landscapes. The first zone, they call it the twilight transition.
Twilight transition. I like it.
It happens in the early evening, like around 8 or 9 p.m. Maybe we're still transitioning from the day's activities. And our energy is still kind of high. So this is a great time for those progressive dialogues.
Oh, right.
Remember we talked about those?
We did. More complex conversations.
Right.
Maybe debating or even role-playing. Professional scenarios. So we're using that leftover energy from the day to really get into the language. I like it.
What about the second zone?
Okay, the second zone, what happens there?
Now we're moving deeper into the night, it's called. The midnight focus zone.
The midnight focus zone.
Okay, everything's quiet now.
Yeah.
And our minds are more receptive to focus learning. So this is when you want to do those activities that need like a lot of concentration, like practicing grammar structures or working on pronunciation.
Oh, yeah, like really honing in on those sounds.
And they even mention this technique.
What technique?
It's called the shadow and echo technique.
Shadow and echo. Okay. What is that?
So you basically mimic Siri's speech to improve your accent.
So I'm like shadowing Siri's voice.
Yeah, exactly.
And then echoing it back. Oh, that's clever.
And that stillness of the night, it really helps you focus on those subtle sounds.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
What about the final zone?
All right, zone number 3.
Okay. What's it called?
This one is the dreamscape drift.
Dreamscape drift. I love these names.
This is when our energy is naturally starting to dip.
Okay, we're getting sleepy.
Right, so we want to do more passive learning.
Like what?
Like listening to podcasts or reviewing flashcards. You can even get creative, tell stories with Siri.
Oh, I like that. Like bedtime stories?
Exactly. So we're drifting off to sleep with those English phrases swirling in our minds.
What a lovely image. Okay, so we have these 3 zones.
Yes, each with its own activities and opportunities.
But how do we make sure that we're actually progressing
That's a good point.
through these zones?
Yeah.
We're not just like chatting randomly with Siri.
Well, they talk about this thing called the Midnight Mastery Ladder.
The Midnight Mastery Ladder.
Yeah. It's basically a system where every interaction with Siri builds on the last one.
Okay, so it's about building our skills.
Exactly.
And advancing to the next level.
Yeah.
I love that. It's like gamifying language learning.
Yeah, it is. It makes it more fun and engaging.
But how does this ladder work?
It's like a video game.
No, I like video games. Tell me more.
You start with basic interactions.
Okay.
And as you progress, you increase the complexity and the challenge.
So we're constantly pushing ourselves further.
Exactly.
I talk about riding complexity waves.
Oh, yeah.
Gradually increasing the difficulty to stay challenged.
But not overwhelmed.
Yeah, we don't want to get too far out of ourselves.
They even have this system.
Okay.
It's called the Challenge Cascade system.
Challenge Cascade system.
Yeah. So it's a series of tasks that get progressively harder.
So we're constantly leveling up.
You got it.
I love that. It's like having a personal language trainer.
Right in your pocket.
Designing these custom workouts. But sometimes, even a simple conversation with Siri can feel challenging.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Late at night, when that brain fog hits.
Totally.
So what do we do then?
Well, they have these things called low energy, high impact exercise.
Low energy, high impact.
These are activities that are still beneficial, even when you're tired.
Okay, so like the easy level of my language learning video game.
Exactly.
So instead of debating philosophy, maybe I just review some flashcards.
Yeah.
Or listen to a podcast.
Perfect. It's about being kind to yourself, recognizing those energy levels, and choosing the right activities.
I can do that.
And even during those low energy moments, you can still have breakthroughs.
Really?
Yeah, they talk about flow state, trigger points.
Flow state, trigger points.
These are certain types of conversations that can help you get into that flow state.
Oh, I know what you mean. Like when time just flies by.
Exactly. And you're totally absorbed.
Yeah, I've definitely experienced that. With creative writing.
Me too. But I never thought about it. For language learning.
So what kinds of conversations trigger this flow state?
It's all about finding topics that really interest you.
Okay, so things I'm passionate about.
Yeah, things that spark your curiosity, like maybe your favorite books or movies, or exploring a new hobby, or even talking about your dreams for the future.
So it's about making it personal.
Exactly.
They also mention using Siri to explore cultural nuances.
Oh, that's interesting.
Like British humor or American idioms.
I like that.
It's not just about the language. It's about connecting with the culture.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, but let's be real. Not every conversation with Siri is going to be this.
Yeah.
Magical flow state experience.
Sure.
What about those times when we hit a roadblock or get frustrated?
Good question. Well, they actually say that those moments can be valuable.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they call it misunderstanding magic.
Misunderstanding magic.
Okay, so when Siri misinterprets what we're saying.
We've all been there. We use those moments to refine our pronunciation.
Oh.
So instead of getting discouraged.
Right. We analyze what went wrong and try different ways of saying things.
Oh, I like that. It's like turning those mistakes into learning opportunities. But what about when the technology itself is the problem?
Oh, like when Siri just doesn't cooperate?
Yeah. What do we do then?
Well, the episode has a whole bunch of technical tips and troubleshooting strategies.
Okay, like what?
Like finding the voice recognition sweet spot,
Oh,
creating an echo chamber effect.
echo chamber effect.
Ah,
I've never heard of that.
it's basically adjusting the position of your device and your speaking volume.
Yeah.
So you can hear those subtle nuances in your pronunciation.
Oh, that's smart.
We even talk about a settings cascade system.
Settings cascade system. What's that?
It's a way to gradually increase the challenge as you progress.
This is like
Yeah.
customizing Siri.
Yeah, to become a more advanced
right.
language partner.
I love that.
So we're not just talking to Siri, we're actually optimizing our devices to get the most out of it.
It's like we're becoming
Yeah.
our own tech support team.
Exactly.
But with all this focus on the technical details and structured practice, we're forgetting about the emotional side of language learning.
Not at all.
Okay, good. Because I think that's really important.
It is.
What do they say about the emotional side of things?
Well, they say that those late night hours can be really powerful for emotional growth and development.
Oh, interesting.
They talk about a midnight mindset shift.
Midnight mindset shift.
It happens when we learn in those quiet hours.
Okay, so like Kinsea, our inner critic goes to sleep.
Yeah. And our inner language learner comes alive.
I like that.
So it's not just about memorizing grammar rules, it's about developing a more confident and expressive self in English.
How does this shift happen? What
Yeah.
triggers it?
Well, they say that the lack of external pressure and judgment creates a safe space for experimentation and vulnerability.
So it's like we can let our guard down.
Yeah. And just be ourselves in English.
They call this an emotional safety bubble.
Emotional safety bubble. It's like a protected space where we can explore without fear of making mistakes.
So we're free to experiment, to play with the language.
Exactly. And this can lead to what they call the confidence cascade effect.
Confidence cascade effect.
Yeah. So because we feel safe, we take more risks.
Yeah.
And make faster progress.
It's like we're unlocking a new version of ourselves, a more confident and fluent version.
I like that. It's like a secret identity.
A secret identity, yeah, that emerges in the stillness of the night.
Exactly.
But they say this secret identity can actually spill over into our daily lives.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So we become more confident and fluent. Even in real-world situations, they even talk about an identity shift.
An identity shift.
Yeah, where our self-perception as language learners actually transforms.
Wow, that's powerful.
So those late-night conversations aren't just improving our skills, they're reshaping our sense of self.
That's amazing.
So let's recap. What have we learned?
Well, we've seen the power, working with our energy rhythms, exploring those 3 learning zones. We've learned how to structure our practice using the Midnight Mastery Ladder and complexity waves. And we've seen how those late night hours can foster confidence, reduce anxiety, and even spark a shift in our self-perception.
It's amazing how much potential those quiet hours hold.
It is, not just for language learning, but for personal growth as well.
Absolutely. And there's still more to come.
Yes, there is. In our next segment,
We're talking about how to integrate those late night sessions into our daily lives to create a continuous cycle of growth and improvement.
I'm excited.
Me too. So we've explored the science behind it. We've created our cozy learning nest. And we've even dived into the emotional side of late night language learning with Siri. But now, the big question.
What's that?
How do we take all this potential and actually make it a part of our everyday lives? Like, how do we bridge that gap between those midnight conversations and real-world fluency?
That's a good question.
What do they say?
Well, they introduced this concept. It's called the midnight to morning bridge.
Midnight to morning bridge.
Yeah. It's about connecting those lives. Late night practice sessions with our daytime activities.
So it's like a bridge
Exactly.
between those quiet hours and the hustle and bustle of real life.
I like that analogy.
But how do we actually build this bridge?
Well, one technique is the echo effect.
The echo effect.
So it's about taking those phrases we practiced with Siri and actually using them in our daily conversations.
So it's like those late night sessions are planting seeds, and then we're watching them grow throughout our day.
I like that.
It's not just about practicing alone. It's about actually integrating it into our lives. And I imagine that creates like this positive feedback loop, right?
Definitely.
The more we use it, the more confident we become.
Yeah.
And the more we want to keep practicing. So those new phrases and structures start to feel more natural.
Yeah, like second nature.
They become part of who we are.
I love that.
As English speakers. What else?
Oh, they also talk about transition triggers.
Transition triggers. What are those?
These are like specific moments or cues that remind us of that fluency and confidence that we felt during our night session.
Just like a secret code to activate our inner English speaker.
Exactly. So you can tap into that confidence whenever you need it.
Okay, give me some examples. What could these triggers be?
Well, it could be anything that you associate with your late night practice.
Okay.
Like maybe a certain song or a specific scent or even just a mental image of yourself speaking confidently.
So these little cues can shift our mindset and activate those neural pathways that we've been working on.
That's right.
It's like we're carrying a little bit of that midnight magic with us throughout the day.
I love it.
And as we practice this integration, we start to see what they call the carryover effect.
Carryover effect.
Yeah. It's the natural transfer of fluency from those late night sessions to our real world communication.
Oh, so like it's actually working.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like those sessions are charging up our language battery.
Yeah.
And giving us the power to communicate more effectively.
Makes sense.
They also talk about creating a lifestyle integration matrix.
A lifestyle integration matrix.
As it's about finding opportunities throughout the day to practice and reinforce what we've learned.
So like finding those little pockets of time.
Exactly. Maybe during our commute.
Okay.
Or while we're waiting in line.
Okay.
Or even during our lunch break to squeeze in some practice.
Yeah, like making it a habit.
Exactly. It doesn't have to feel like a chore.
Right.
It's about finding creative ways to make it a natural part of our lives.
So English becomes like an integral part of our daily experience.
I like that. It's not just something we do during designated study time. It's just part of who we are. It's like shifting from I'm practicing English to I'm living my life in English.
I love that shift.
And as we do this, we develop this sense of confidence momentum.
Confidence momentum. Okay. What's that?
It's about carrying that confidence from our night practice into our daily interactions.
Oh, I see.
So it's not just about the technical skills. It's about the attitude, the mindset, the belief in ourselves. As English speakers,
that makes a big difference.
And the more we practice, the more this confidence becomes a part of who we are.
I agree.
So we've come full circle from creating our midnight mindset zone to integrating it into our daily lives.
That's quite a journey.
What are your final thoughts?
Well, what's really inspiring is how accessible this all is.
That's true. Anyone can do this.
All you need is a smartphone and a little bit of curiosity.
And those late night hours become a time for growth and empowerment. It's like magic.
I like that.
So don't be afraid to explore your own night learning journey. You might be surprised at what you discover. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and comment. And thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of curve.
Good night.
Late night language learning with Siri.
Good night.
Tonight.